Hey everybody, we're back for a special developer podcast. What I was talking about basically the last week or so. I have the very special guest, Jools Watsham. Welcome.
Hey man. Hey, thanks man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
I want to say thank you so much for coming on, and I really appreciate what you've been doing in the gaming industry actually for quite a long time. This man has done things with the 3DS, the Nintendo DS, and of course the Wii U, and basically he's been really influential for indie development. So I want to say I really appreciate what you've done, and
Thanks
just
man.
the amount of range of different games you've done. You were with Renegade Kid for a while, and obviously for the
10
most of the
years.
time, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And now you have your new studio. Do you want to tell me
hmm
about that?
About Renegade Kid or Atooi? Which one?
Well, both. What kind of happened there with Renegade Kid, and how you moved on now to where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean we started Renegade Kid back in 2007, so it was 10 years ago now. And with my good friend Greg, like you said, we focused on DS, and then moved on to 3DS, did some Wii U, and then last year decided to just end Renegade Kid, mutually, both Greg and I did, and for various reasons, financial and just kind of, I think both of us kind of feeling like, let's just pursue our own kind of things for a little while. So Greg started his own company called Infotismo, and I started Atooi. So and then we divided up all of the IPs, all of our games, pretty evenly. Greg took all the 3D stuff, and I took all the 2D stuff. And yeah, I mean, that was it really. So it was kind of a weird, bittersweet thing. It's always exciting, to start something new. But it was sad to say goodbye to Renegade Kid because we'd been doing it for 10 years, and it was awesome. It was fun, it was a really good time. But I'm jazzed though. I'm jazzed to get going with Atooi and not only dive back into the project, the IPs that we already created at Renegade Kid, such as Mutant Mud, Zeo Drifter, and so on. But also create some new stuff. So it's a good time. It's fun. It's good stuff.
That's awesome. So I want to ask you though, back in the early days on the Nintendo DS, you did the game Dementium, right?
That was our first game. Yeah.
Right, and you said your partner had the majority of those games, the Dementium and Moon Chronicles.
Yep.
But you did have some involvement in that as well. It wasn't just a one man thing, right? I mean,
Oh no, that was no, that was I was very very involved in that.
Okay.
I mean that was my we did a lot of collaborative design, but it was very much kind of my concept as far as I was really wanting to do a survival horror game. I was a big fan of the DS. I loved Silent Hill and Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really like, man, marrying all of those ideas together, doing something on the DS that really hadn't been done in that way. Would either do very well or very badly, because at that time there was no really mature game to speak of. I mean, there was Resident Evil on the DS at the time, but it was a fairly shaky port, and it certainly didn't feel mature.
Right.
It definitely showed its age at that point. It was just a really neat 3D kind of experience. Wasn't really much of a survival horror game, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought you guys were really innovative because nobody was doing that type of gameplay on the DS at the time with first-person shooter or first-person perspective, really. And
yeah, I mean, there was Metroid Hunters kind of beat us to the punch there. So that was the demo at least. I don't know if the final game was out before ours. It probably was, but the demo certainly was because that came out with the DS, of course.
Yeah, I still have that demo, by the way.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. So anyway, yeah. So no, I was very much involved in that. I designed it. I did the title music for that game. Designed all the levels. Did all the audio, the sound effects for the game. Did all the 2D artwork, such as the bottom screen kind of menu UI stuff. So yeah, I was heavily involved in all of our projects. But it kind of changed a bit when we got to things like Muds and Zeo Drifter, where that was very much me and like Matthew, for example, working on those games. So those games changed a little bit. But back in the day with Dementium and Moon and so on, it was really the whole company was working on one game at a time.
It's really rare for an indie developer to be able to do different types of genres like that. And I thought that was just amazing that you were actually able to accomplish that as Renegade Kid. So congrats to you, because a lot of these indie developers, they make great games, but they usually specialize just on one thing. So I think that's an excellent accomplishment that you guys did. And,
Thanks,
you should
man.
be really proud of it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think it was just what we wanted to do. You know, we like to play different types of games, so it felt natural to then try and make different types of games. Even Dementium, we hadn't made really a first-person shooter before. I mean, I'd helped doing some of the multiplayer maps for Dementium 2, but that was really the game. Sorry, did I say Dementium 2? I meant Turok 2.
Turok 2.
Yeah, on the N64.
Okay.
When I was at Iguana. That's
one of my favorite games. That's awesome, man. I didn't know.
Oh, cool, man. I mean, I worked for 13 odd years at somewhere else before we started Renegade Kid.
Well, yeah, let's get into that a little bit. I was going to ask you about your history there. What got you started? Where'd you start from?
Gosh, where did I start? Well, actually, I started as a journalist, weirdly enough, when I was about 17, 18 years of age in London. Just worked there for a year on a print magazine. This is before internet. This is before email. This is before any digital anything.
Right.
So this was print magazines. This was in 91.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, 91-ish.
Quite a long time ago.
91, 92. Yeah, quite a while ago. Anyway, I did that for a year as a trainee staff writer, then moved into staff writer. That was amazing. Oh my gosh. I mean, I got to travel around England, visiting different video game developers in the country, interviewing them, and reviewing games and stuff. It was awesome. It was really neat. I mean, and I was young and dumb, and I was like, yay, cool. And I was getting paid to do this. I was paid nothing. And my salary was like £6,500 a year. It was really low, but I was living at home, so it didn't matter. It was amazing.
But you enjoyed doing it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would have done it for free. I mean, I practically did. I mean, it paid for my traveling there and back, and that was about it. But like I said, I was living at home, so I didn't have any bills to speak of. But it was worth it. It was amazing. I would definitely do that again. But I did that for a year, and then and then I was working on my art portfolio at the time, or pixel art. So I had my portfolio on a 3.5-inch floppy disk, and I mailed that into various places to try and get an artist job at video game companies. And I got one in London, where I was anyway, and called the Sales Curve or Storm. So that was my first kind of professional game development job. And obviously I'd been doing it in my bedroom as a fan for, many years prior to that.
Wow.
Just trying to do stuff with various stuff. Never programming, but always the creative side, and using packages, such as Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit and things like that, or Amos, different things you could use to make games at the time. But anyway.
So you were doing it on the PC, obviously, first then?
Well, actually, that was on the Amiga and the ST.
Amiga, okay.
So my first computer was a Spectrum 48K, then I moved on to the Commodore 64, and then kind of the ST and the Amiga was after that. And they were pretty substantial machines. So they were kind of more akin to the 16. Well, they are 16-bit. They were more akin to the Genesis and the Super Nintendo as far as their power, more or less. A little less powerful, but similar visually to those machines as far as the game quality artistically. But yes, it was on those machines at the time. And then, anyway, yeah, so I worked at that company as an artist for a year. Working on an NES game was the first thing I worked on, was Rodland. Just did some artwork for that. And then we were just thrown onto the Super Nintendo game after that, just me and the programmer. Make a Super Nintendo game. It's like, okay, cool. I guess this is how you make games, apparently. No, it's not. That's not the way you're supposed to make games. But that's what they decided to do. But it was fun. I mean, it's trial by fire. I mean, I was a very inexperienced artist. The role game designer really wasn't defined in the Western industry anyway. Western game industry, as far as we were concerned, that role didn't exist. You had artists, you had programmers, you had producers. And that was about it. So game design was something just that happened in between those people, depending on who had naturally the urge to do so, which is very strange and odd when you look back on it. But anyway, so I worked on a game called Time Slip for the Super Nintendo, which our goal essentially was to rip off Contra 3 Alien Wars.
I'm not sure if I played that or not, but I should check it out.
Probably shouldn't.
Why not?
It's not great, but it was.
Hey, I
fun.
love Contra, man.
Yeah. It didn't come close, but it was it was fun to try. So we did that. I only worked there for a year, so I didn't actually finish the game. So they weren't very happy about it because I had found a job opening at Iguana Entertainment up in North England and applied for that. And like, yeah, great, join us. And it was like, oh wow, and they wanted us to start straight away. So they weren't particularly happy about me leaving, which is unfortunate. But it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So my name's probably not even in the credits of Time Slip, and that's okay. That is okay.
And what art did you do on Turok 2, or was it the first Turok as well?
No, Turok 2. By that point, I was a senior designer.
Oh, okay.
That's Acclaim, I guess it was at the time. I think Goanna had become Acclaim at that point. So that's when I was already in the US. So it was just multiplayer maps, taking the maps and designing them, laying them out. So this was very early for us because it was when there weren't many multiplayer first-person shooters. There was Quake, of course. What else was there?
GoldenEye. Unless you're
so-
designing it way before GoldenEye came out
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh no, GoldenEye came out
in '97.
when Turok 1
Yeah.
was out. Yes, so GoldenEye was out. Yes, so there was GoldenEye, and there was basically Quake, and maybe a few other ones. So there wasn't much reference, certainly not compared to today. So that was fun. It was really fun to think about. Okay, well, what can we do?
So you put the monkey in Turok 2's multiplayer?
The monkey? I don't know what's that. I don't think so. No, I probably
No.
didn't do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they had this monkey you could put in the multiplayer, and you could kill the monkey. It was,
Oh, fun.
yeah.
I was just a kind of a hired gun for that to kind of design some of the levels. But it was fun though, to kind of think about how do we encourage players to always come back in on themselves, so they can't just go off and camp somewhere. So it was fun to think about that.
Man,
anyway,
I had no idea.
yeah.
That's awesome. That I didn't expect that. That's something I think my
it's
viewers
fun.
really like too. That's really cool. Turok 2 was one of my favorite N64 games just because it really pushed the system really hard. I mean,
Yeah, they did an amazing job. I mean, Turok 1 was really great, and then Turok 2, wow, the team just went nuts. I mean,
yeah.
artistically, game design, everything was like, wow. Audio, it really was firing on all cylinders. They did an amazing job. I mean, Turok 2 is pretty incredible. Like I say, I was a hired gun just to bring on at the end, so I can't take any credit for it. The team did an amazing job.
Yeah, it was really
very, very impressive.
technical achievement. I mean, the game still looks good today when I see it, of course. But man, that's really awesome. And then so after that, what'd you get into after Iguana?
Excuse me. Well, Acclaim shut down in 2004, so that was fun. Everyone went off to lunch one day. They came back to lunch and the doors were locked, so we couldn't get back into the studio.
Are you serious? Wow.
Okay, what's going on here? And we didn't know. And there was actually a little hint before that, because the first time in like 13 years, our paychecks were slightly delayed. I was like, that's a bit suspicious. What's up with that?
We've heard of that happening with other companies lately too.
Yeah, like the last payment, I guess technically, which it was, which you didn't know at the time, was slightly delayed, which was very peculiar. And then the doors were locked, and we actually found out that basically they hadn't been paying the rent, and it was actually the office management that had decided to lock us out as like, look, you guys aren't paying your rent, you can't stay here anymore. Basically, everyone's stuff was locked inside, and they couldn't get back in. And some people even had like personal information there, like passports or bills or whatever. They had stuff that really obviously shouldn't have been in their office, but it was. So yeah, it was a bizarre time. Anyway, so that was good though. I needed to move on from that place. That Acclaim was really going down. It was not a good place to be.
Yeah. And then obviously you started up Renegade Kid soon after 2004, right?
Yeah, well, I worked for let me think there. For a few months I just did, kind of freelance contract stuff. Then I worked at a place called Kings Isle in Austin for about 18 months as a producer on a kids MMO called Wizard 101. That was interesting. And then Greg and I were both working there. Greg was the art director of that project, and it was going fine, and we had good salaries. We had no good reason to change that situation. But we're like, you know what? We've been talking about starting our own company for probably 10 years prior to that. Literally, not even exaggerating there because we'd known each other for so long prior to that. We had literally been talking about it for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, you know what, let's just do it. There's no better time to do it than when you actually are comfortable, because then you can kind of springboard off of that comfort into an uncomfortable position, but at least you're not desperate. You're deciding to do it. You're making the decision to leave this cushy position and risk it all for something else rather than out of sheer desperation because you have no other choice, which is a preferable position to be in if you're going to do such a thing. So we jumped into it, and we were pretty cavalier about it, honestly. We're like, hey, let's do Dementium. It's either going to do great or do awful, and if it does awful, great, we'll just go and get another job because the job market was actually pretty good at the time. This was in 2007, 2006 time. And it was great. We worked during the day doing freelance work for a toy company, actually doing pixel art for these little toy things you can buy. You can't buy them now, but they were on Target shelves and stuff like that at the time.
Wow.
Like Pixel Chicks, and let me see if I can find one. There was one called Pause with a Z. If you put a Z on it, it's way cooler. There's this little device here.
Oh, really?
See that? There's a little weird little handheld device.
I may have seen one of those, maybe.
Mewcheese? I don't know, Mewcheese. You see the little weird logo up there. Anyway, this is the cat one. There's a dog one. There's a little cat that you walked around. But I did all the artwork for that. And there was also this one called Pixel Chicks, which is really cute, actually. It was like a little plastic house, a 3D dimensional plastic house with a little kind of cutaway so you could see inside the house. It had a little plastic furniture and stuff placed inside. It was actually visually quite nicely done, very simple. And then you had almost like this kind of projection screen, black and white, projected onto that screen, which would then display the pixel art where she was walking around kind of interacting with the actual real furniture. Obviously not moving the furniture, but acting like she was putting the baby in the crib or sitting down or whatever, going to the stove, stuff like that. So it was really adorable and really great. And we didn't set the style or anything like that. It was already pre-done. We were just brought on as hired guns to then just do animations and then plug them into the system. Anyway, whatever. We both did that during the day to pay our bills, and then in the evening we pulled our money together to then pay for a programmer, which we found on the internet, because at this point the internet did exist. And then we made Dementium, in our spare time, and then while we were trying to shop around to find a publisher just to give us money, to get this thing released and to actually pay us so we could continue making games. So actually, funnily enough, I'm going to GDC next week in 2017. The last time I went was in 2007 GDC to try and find a publisher for Dementium, which we didn't. We actually ended up finding a publisher in Austin, funnily enough. Going to GDC didn't bring any kind of fruit, but yeah, it's a weird cycle. But
you're that's totally awesome. So your inspiration for these kind of side-scrolling strategy, type of games that you've been doing these last few years. Did that come from your original roots from NES and Super Nintendo? You want to kind of get, maybe improve on that aspect of it?
It's an aspect I've always loved. I've always loved doing pixel art, even when I was a kid in my bedroom, when I didn't even think I'd ever get a job as a game maker. I didn't think that would be possible because there was no career path for that. Like, how do you in the late 80s, early 90s, you're like, I don't know, where do video games come from? Don't they come from a magic factory somewhere? I don't know.
Exactly.
So I've always had a deep love and appreciation for it because that was really my foundation of video games as far as a player and as a creator, I guess. But I've always loved things, especially the Super Nintendo. My gosh, when that came along and I saw Mario World, that was just so unique. The visual style, the audio, the gameplay, God, it's so unique. The whole thing is just so special.
That's my favorite console of all time, personally.
What an amazing machine. I think you could obviously probably see hints of that in Mutant Mudds. Obviously, Zero Drift is a little bit more NES kind of flavored. But then with Chicken Wiggle, I'm going a little bit more Super Nintendo with that, which is super fun. And obviously Treasure Noughts, we can talk about later, is more Super Nintendo as well, especially with the music as well, because Troop Gamage, who did do the Mutant Mudds music, I the idea for Treasure was like, hey, can you make it sound like more like Super Nintendo, whatever that means. But he did it.
Yeah.
My gosh, his music for Treasure is very Super Nintendo, and it's very amazing.
Can
very
you
epic.
can you explain a little bit about Chicken Wiggle for those who don't know how the game works? And I know it's
Yeah.
kind of a work in progress.
Yeah, it's done, which is fantastic. And now we're tying up loose ends, we're tying up bugs, and just finishing up. So that's been fun, man. It's been very difficult though. Yeah, okay. So it is. So from the very beginning, we designed it as a game that is obviously it's a puzzle platformer, and it started off with I had a player package idea in mind of a character that was pretty limited as far as jumping and getting around. But he could send out this thing that could then grab on. Because at the time I didn't know what it was going to be, whether it was going to be... I mocked it up as the Zero Drifter character sending out a grappling hook. I knew that wasn't going to be that.
A game
but
mechanic.
I was like, whatever. Yeah, I was like, whatever, it doesn't matter what it looks like. But yeah, there's just, they send out this thing that can then pull you across gaps, or you can send it up high, it can pull you up high. So... To get over your limitation of your limited jump, you use this thing you send out to then get to these areas you couldn't get to otherwise. So that was the basic concept of like stunted basic ability with this other extended ability that lets you get to it. So that was the idea of the player package. And let's make a puzzle game where you have to navigate a 2D puzzle level with this player package, because that player package is somewhat interesting and different, and then let's make a puzzle platformer out of that, because that gameplay should offer quite a bit of flexibility, and there's a little bit of strategy involved as well, and when you jump and when you use the grapple and so on. Anyway, whatever. So that seemed to be pretty good, and we started to develop that idea. And as usual with us, it started off very simple. My initial concept was, hey, let's do something like Pushmo, really, really basic, as far as the player can just paint a level and make it look pretty, but it'll be a 2D side-scrolling version of that.
Right.
And using this player package, get around it, done. We can share the levels with QR codes, bash that out in a few months, we'll be done. Yay.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, it didn't go that way.
You fell in love with it, right? And you started putting all kinds of more.
It's for good reason. I mean, I've been wanting to make an editor in a game. I mean, my ideal would be to actually make a game maker, a program where you can make a game. You probably have to be like a certain genre. You couldn't just make something that can make any game. That'd be insane. But if you make a 2D side-scrolling game maker, I've always wanted to do that. Anyway, this is a slice of that. So it was really fun to kind of make the editor. But yeah, it ballooned way up out of that. It really the single player kind of mode where you play the levels is a full-blown puzzle platform game with, oh my gosh, like so many ingredients and devices and enemies and interactive stuff that you can do. It's amazing. It's fun. It's great. It really has blossomed into something very special. And then you tack onto that the level editor, and now the player can do that and share it online. It's like, wow. So it's really, I'm really, really proud of it. It's really epic.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
How
it's
many
really, really nice.
How many guys you got working on that? Did you have working on the game when you was in development?
That has just been really me and Matthew making that game.
2 guys. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure we've got the help from a few other people here. Oh, we did actually have one guy help us with the networking stuff, which was obviously very important. Probably someone else helped us out with a little bit of music, a little bit of audio here and there. But the bulk of the game was basically me and Matthew kind of slogging it out, trying to make it. So,
wow. Well, you guys are doing an excellent job. My goodness.
Thanks, man. I mean, that's the same with Mud, same with Zero Drifter. That's kind of how we've done those. Ball Monkey, that's kind of, it's always been pretty much me and Matthew make those, and then we'll bring in a few hired guns to do this and that to help kind of flesh it out. But yeah, Chicken Wiggle was really neat. And yeah, the idea about what the character would end up being took a while. We went through lots of ideas. At one point, I had this little. Almost like a little ice climber kind of little guy, a little ice guy with a little parker on. He send out a little grappling hook.
Yeah,
so I'm like, great. It'd be like a mountain he's climbing, and I can kind of do a whole snowy mountain theme. That'd be awesome. And then I'm like, it's kind of a bit too much like this, like the ice climbers. So I didn't want to be compared with that. So because then it kind of just it detracts from the identity of your game. if it's so similar to some other game. So we kicked around all kinds of ideas, and then the idea was, I was like, it'd be cool, like, in the beginning of Muds, there's that little bird on that sign that then flaps away, and then actually in Super Challenge there's a red bird. Actually, there's a couple of birds that fly off in the very first level. I was like, it'd be cool if you were that bird, but in this game.
There you go.
And then we're like, well, what could he send out? And I'm like, it'd be funny if he had a worm in his backpack. Because usually a bird would eat a worm, so it'd be kind of fun if he didn't, and they were buddies, because that's neat. And then we're like, well, let's not make it the Muds universe, because then that kind of tethers us to expectation. So let's not make it that bird. Let's just make it something else. I'm like, great. Well, let's maybe. And then I was playing around with colors. I had a really nice kind of red colored one, and then it ended up looking too much like the Angry Bird. And I'm like, bummer, So I was like, how about yellow looked really cool, and I'm like, now it looks like kind of like a little chicken, neat. So it could be a chicken and that, and I was just kicking around names, and then Chicken Wiggle came about, and I'm like, that's so silly, I like it.
It was working out for you so far.
Yeah, and it kind of plays on the Chicken Little, Chicken Wiggle kind of, comparison, which is not a bad thing, so whatever. So it came together, and then it went from there. So kind of a strange way that game found its identity, but in the end, the good thing is we closed many doors and said no many times to many ideas until we landed on what we decided on, and that's the important thing, is how many times you say no and what you say no to, because we could have, if we'd have stuck with the original idea, that would have been fine, it wouldn't have been a bad thing, but I think it's more special and more unique now, because there's not many games I can think of that are called Chicken Wiggle or have a chicken with a worm in its backpack. And obviously there's the obvious comparisons of Banjo-Kazooie, and I'm like, great, bring it on. That's a great comparison.
Sure. Why not?
If someone wants to say that, I'm like, hey, that's awesome. I'm never going to say no to that.
I was going to ask you about the difficulty, and you were kind of known for making some kind of difficult games. I mean, basically, Mutant Muds is extremely challenging, and of course, Mutant Muds Super Challenge is to the 10th degree, right? I mean, it's even
insane.
And by the way, guys, watching, we do have codes to give away for that game. So if you're interested in the challenge, I will be sending out some codes to you guys in the comment section. Of course, you need to be a subscriber. And stay tuned. We're still going to talk about the Nintendo Switch, of course. But I wanted to ask you about the difficulty in Chicken Wiggle. Is it kind of a little bit lighter, or is it more of a ramp up?
There is a ramp up, yes. But I was very aware of the fact that our games are hard, so I wanted it to start off, be a little bit easier. Start off really pretty simple, and it never gets to not even close to Super Challenge. I mean, not even close. My gosh, no. Okay. Oh my god, that game is so ridiculously hard. No, the game never gets even close to that. It probably doesn't even get close to some of the hard stuff in the original Muds either. I mean, but the nice thing is, it certainly could. You could make levels that are insanely difficult if you wanted to, of course. And we did at the beginning, just to kind of test out the boundaries of what we can do in this game. And it's very easy to make really, really challenging levels. But I restrained myself and made sure that I kind of wanted to approach it where there are 48 levels in the single-player play mode, and I wanted those levels to kind of really act more as a way to introduce you to all the fun stuff that's in the game. Actually, it doesn't even introduce you to all the stuff. There's even some surprises still left in the editor that the main game doesn't even show you. So that's going to be a fun, I think. People will be like, hey, what does this thing do? I haven't seen this before. So I wanted it to be a way to kind of show off and showcase a lot of the stuff that's in the editor, but I also wanted it to be fun and not have to make it too crazy challenging. So I wanted to make it entertaining. So I think that's what hopefully those levels do. But there is a sense of difficulty curve from the first world all the way up to the last world. Yeah. Because I think that's good. I like that. I think that's nice to have that. And it does end in a boss at the end as well. There is a final boss to beat, which will be super fun. So the game has ended up, oh my gosh, it started off, like I said, so tiny, and now it's, equal, if not more, than the original Muds. It's crazy. It's like, It is. It is bigger than the original mods because the original mods had 40 levels. This has more, and it has a box, and it has a level editor. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, one thing
Insane.
I love about your games is the innovation that you do. You try to make it different. You know, Mutant Muds is different.
Yep.
You know, Xenodrifter is different. Chicken Wiggle's different. Dementium's totally different. You know, you got so much difference in there. That's what makes your game so appealing, in my opinion.
It's fun.
It's not just another side scroller that you beat the level and go to the next level. There's something more to it than just that. I appreciate that.
Thanks, man. I mean, I think even within the 2D side-scrolling platforming genre, I mean, really, I think it's a limitless and infinite amount of things you could do that could be fair to say are completely different from one another. I mean, I think Muds to Xenodrifter, I think, are completely different as far as if you play it. They're completely different experiences, and Chicken Wiggle will be that way as well, and Treasure Noughts will be that way as well. So I mean, I think it's fun to kind of dive into those genres.
Yeah, see, we need developers like you then, right? Because a lot of people see the 2D side scrolling, as kind of being the same old. So we need more developers like you to put more life into those type of games, because people think 2D platformer, 2D side scroller, they say, well, there's only so much you can do with it. And here here you say we got infinite possibilities. I mean that's
Definitely.
the good way to look at it right there.
Obviously, so far, and I think for me anyway, I'm personally, everyone's on their own journey, right? And so as far as my journey, like Mutant Muds was, in a way, kind of my take on maybe Super Mario World, kind of. Not really, but kind of. And then Xenodrifter is obviously a take on Metroid. With Treasure Noughts and with Chicken Wiggle, they're a little different. I'm starting to not be so concerned about fulfilling a desire that I originally had. I fulfilled that with Muds. I fulfilled that with Xenodrifter. Now with Treasure Noughts and Chicken Wiggle, for example, now it's more like, well, okay, I've already fulfilled those personal desires, those goals I had. Now what? Now what do I do? How do I entertain myself? How do I entertain the player? How do I make this actually exist for a reason and not just be a carbon copy of that last game, with whatever. So now I'm kind of, it's fun actually for me, because now I'm like, great, now I'm in new territory where it's like, okay, what can I put into this game to make it a different experience? And it's not really as tethered or as inspired by specific games. It probably has a lot more inspirations, or it's just kind of hopefully more just different, more unique, because of what it is, and then it growing on itself and kind of inspiring itself and just kind of finding its own natural way, So it's fun. I love it. It's a fun process.
So, Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Everyone, that's the hot topic, right? It's coming out in what?
It sure is.
Today is Wednesday. It's coming out in a week and in 2 days.
Crazy. It's next Friday?
Yeah, next Friday the 3rd.
Oh my gosh, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
So you're obviously going to be bringing one of these games to the Switch, right?
Yeah, totally.
What game are you going to be bringing?
Let's
make an announcement right now. Let's do it.
When does this show go out?
It's going to go up tonight.
Okay. There actually is going to be a certain logo included in some reel at GDC.
Okay.
From Nintendo, which, and that's probably all I can say right now on that.
Okay. But basically, you are going to bring something to the Switch, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Brian from Image and Form Games. He was like, "Yeah, we got something coming to the Switch," but he couldn't announce it. And then, sure enough, he announced SteamWorld 2017.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So good.
So we definitely do have something. I have my Switch pre-ordered, and actually it'll be coming on the 3rd, but I'll actually be in San Francisco at the time of GDC. So I'll come back on the 4th and unbox it. Everyone in the house has strict orders to not touch that box until I get home. But we're excited about it. We definitely have something in mind for that. I have a feeling that machine is going to do pretty darn well. I think that's pretty clear. I think everyone, can universally agree on that. I don't think there's much question that it's not going to do better.
But
then
what are your thoughts on it, though? I mean, let's talk about the system itself a little bit there. So Nintendo, Nintendo got some criticism for their presentation, and there's some, moments where it was a little bit, out of touch and things like that. And some of the things have been criticized, of course. And then, of course, you got the big positives as well. So, what are your overall thoughts?
Well, I was last October when they released the video. That was amazing. I mean, the 3-minute video they released was pitch perfect. I thought it was really, really impressive. I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was great. I think it demonstrated the message of what the machine is very, very well. It put it in the hands of cool people of the age that was very smart to choose, because they're the age that young people want to be, and they're the age that old people want to be. So I think it's an age that is universally appreciated. If you are that age, if you're younger than that age, if you're older than that age, I think it was a good age to go for, which is that 20-something crowd-ish, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that was very smart. It doesn't make it a kiddie machine. It doesn't make it an old fogey's machine. It makes it cool. So that was very clever. And I think they got the message right, which I needed to, especially after the Wii U, which was a disaster as far as the messaging.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was very good. So I was really excited about that. I thought the presentation in January was, honestly, I thought it was pretty awful as far as the way they handled it. I thought it was really bad.
There you go. There's some honesty for you guys.
Yeah, it was disappointing. After the video that they did in October, that set such a high bar. Mm-hmm. I was hoping of more of the same for the presentation, which you saw glimpses of, with the pre-recorded videos of showing off, the Joy-Con and what it could do with the glass, with the ice cubes in the glass, stuff like that. That kind of stuff was really nice, really polished and really neat. I think a Nintendo Direct would have. It's what really people were expecting, or at least I was expecting, something of that polish. It doesn't have to be that, perfect kind of choreographed thing. Nintendo Direct's always a little bit goofy, a little bit kind of cheesy here, but then super polished here. Mm-hmm. I think that is what I expected and what I hoped for. It clearly wasn't that. The translators messing up didn't really help. Mm-hmm. And for me personally, the amount of time they spent on ARMS and 1-2 Switch felt odd to me. I didn't think personally, even though they might be great games, not taking anything away from them, I think they're going to be really fun experiences. Mm-hmm. To me, they're not equal to like the Wii Sports for the Wii, the original Wii, which was a universally appealing and compelling software that just sold the system to any age, which was brilliant. 1-2 Switch and ARMS, to me, are not those games. To spend so much time on those games just felt odd to me.
I agree.
And, obviously Zelda, yay, launch title, that saved it.
Yeah.
Zelda being a launch title saved the whole thing. Mario Odyssey, when I first saw the trailer, I was very confused. I love Mario. I love 3D Mario. That trailer...
Were you confused by him being in New York City with real people and he's not a real person after all?
Yes, that made no sense to me.
He's like Pinocchio or something.
So odd. So I was a little... just confused would be the best word to say about that. But since then... especially watching, Game Explain's analysis of that game, that really helped, I think, shed better light on it. When you slow it down and you look at it and you try and tie some of the pieces together and see what the game could be as a whole, it could actually be pretty darn great. The New York scene is still very strange. That will never change. That's just peculiar. But the other worlds look great. 3D Mario platforming goodness. So it could be a really, really good game.
He might be in some kind of alternate reality or something.
Yeah.
He's traveling around in that airship.
The hat thing. The hat ship. Yeah. Yeah, very odd. But no, the presentation I thought was not great. So that was a bit of a letdown. But I think the machine is great. I think it has a lot of potential. I think the games are amazing. I mean, you think about it. It's going to launch with Zelda. Mm-hmm. About 2 months later, we get Mario Kart.
Splatoon.
Is that right? Yeah, then we get Splatoon, exactly. And then there's Fire Emblem. Mm-hmm. And then there's Mario. Wow. I mean, and that's just first party. Well, Fire Emblem isn't, but, or is it?
Yeah, Fire Emblem's first party.
Yeah. And that's just first party in the first, calendar year. Wow. what a release. So and then hopefully, if they're smart, touch wood, oh my gosh, I hope they do this in the holiday season. If they actually do bundles for the same price, $2.99, or maybe even a little bit less for just a single unit without a game, whatever. But if they actually have Zelda, Mario, etc. bundles for holiday season at the $300 or maybe $329, wow, that would be because that's my big concern right now. $300
the price.
Yeah, you get $300. Sorry, for $300 you get the Switch with a, let's face it, a very small SD card. 32 gigabytes is silly at this stage in the game. With the size of games like Zelda that take up half that space, it's silly. But the problem is you can't rely on every casual gamer to know what that even means. Like, what I have to buy a what and put it in where? You can't.
Just want the game to work.
Yeah, just you spend $300, you bring it home, you've got a game. You know, you've got everything you need. So I'm hoping by Christmas time they provide that. So for $3 or $3.30, you can buy a system that has 64, 128, 256 gig thing already pre-installed, or very simple instructions to install it with one game, whether it be Zelda, Mario, etc. So out of the box, they're good to go. The whole family can jump in, do their thing, and never have to worry about it again. That's what I feel they're missing. But the advantage they have is they're releasing in March, and the hardcore players will buy it. The hardcore Nintendo community will get it, and hopefully they will be the ambassadors, the people that will, tell everyone about it. So by the time Christmas comes, then they have all that time and that lead up. Then they can have the more casual, family-friendly packaging, hopefully, and pricing for then the casual people to take it on. So that's my hope. I hope they take advantage of that time period.
Are you familiar with the little puppet YouTuber called Arlo?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, he does these videos about Nintendo and things, and he's this little puppet from Sesame Street, looks like, basically. But he did a video that talked something similar to what you just said, basically that almost like a softish launch in March for the Switch, and then ramping up with all the software. So when the holiday comes, the consumer says, "Oh wow, it has all these games," and they buy it for Christmas. That sounds like exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah, I hope they take advantage of that, because that's exactly what they could do, and it could be amazing. I mean, bundles are great. I remember as a kid, like when the Amiga and stuff like that, and even the Genesis and so on, you get like the Batman bundle or whatever. You get the whatever bundle, or the Sega bundle. I mean, it's just great to kind of see those boxes, have that logo on there, and you get it, you take it home, and because let's face it, you buy a machine to play games. You don't buy a machine for a machine. I mean, yeah, it helps that it's really cool and neat looking, but it's all about the emotional connection you have with the game. And that's when you see a bundle, you're like, oh my gosh, there's a Zelda bundle, and the box is all Zelda-fied, and maybe there's a Zelda controller or whatever, That's just like, oh my gosh, when you bring it home, that's that emotional, connection you have. So I'm hoping that at Christmas time is the perfect time to present that.
Yeah, and the system is different enough from the competition that people could. Right. Theoretically, they could want that separately and still have their PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, their other systems as well, because it provides a totally different type of experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a huge handheld gamer. That's my preferred gaming platform. So the 3DS for me is my perfect kind of console right now.
Outstanding system.
Yeah, so good. So it's interesting for me to look at it as how does the Switch affect that market. And for me, the Switch doesn't replace the 3DS. I mean, I think as a market it might do, but for me as a player, it doesn't. Because what I love about the 3DS is the clamshell design means I can grab it, stuff it in a backpack, stuff it in my pocket, whatever. I don't have to worry about it too much because it's self-protected and it's small enough. And that's the problem. One issue I have with the Switch as far as it being mobile is just the screen is so perfect and shiny and lovely, and it's not clamshell. I'm going to have a case for it. And that was one of the problems I had with the Vita. The Vita is a beautiful machine, but I'm worried about scratching it. And
you have children?
I do.
Okay, so yeah, I can understand that.
So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I'll be interested in how I react myself as far as, is it something that I treat like a 3DS? I have a feeling I won't. I have a feeling I won't be carrying it around with me. Plus, it's twice the price of a 3DS. I can't just buy one for me and then one for the family. I mean, I guess I could, but it's, like I say, twice the price of a 3DS, so it's not, so it's interesting. It's interesting to see how it's going to play out. I'm hoping the 3DS lasts a long time.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling this Christmas is probably its last big Christmas, unfortunately.
It might be, yeah. What a great run, though. 2011 to 2017, that's 6 years. You can't ask for anything more than that for a system. And some fantastic games. But thinking about that, it's interesting, too, because Nintendo did say that they are considering the possibility, of a sequel to the 3DS or a different type of smaller, maybe more portable handheld, whatever, because the 3DS, like you said, is only you can get a 2DS actually for what, $79.99 now?
Yeah,
under $100. So there may be that different market. There's some separation there.
It's almost they have to go in a very different, because Nintendo never does something just for money. They have that need to make something that justifies itself. They won't just do a sequel to something and rinse and repeat. It has to exist with a new innovation for them to feel okay about having created that. Very, very rarely do you see a straight sequel. I mean, sometimes it does happen, but very rarely. Maybe
the closest thing to that would be the Super Nintendo. But it was still totally different in a sense as well. So, but yeah. I mean, they were very much focused on just the hardware. I mean, Mode 7 and blah blah blah. It was like back then, the Super Nintendo compared to the NES was hugely different. But now it's they're the same, right? It was more colors. But at the time, it was very like, wow, this is totally different. Obviously, the joypad was beautiful as well, so that was a big improvement. Then the N64, of course. The controller was a big difference, and obviously 3D. Mario 64 was amazing, so that was a big leap. But so it'll be interesting to see if they continue with the dual screen thing, or if they go single screen, tiny, or what innovation did they put on it? Do they stick with the dual screen? I don't think they'll stick with 3D. I don't think that gimmick is strong enough for them to put stock in that. There's a lot of interesting technology the other companies are working on. I saw last year those flexible screens where you can actually fold the screen itself.
Yeah, having like a credit card kind of machine would be pretty neat.
That's awesome.
It's in your wallet, right? Just pick it out.
And then they also have those screens now that you could actually have little bubbles pop up and form buttons too. I mean, granted, all that technology is expensive, but Nintendo's known for using ideas like that and implementing them into their games.
True. And that was actually one aspect of the Switch presentation that I was surprised about, was to hear about the HD rumble that the Joy-Cons have. That was like, wow, that was new information that was really neat. That's pretty amazing. I honestly can't think much of a great application for like normal games. Like once you switch, sure, great. Party games, definitely. And obviously it enhances your experience, like with arms, when you send it out, you feel like there's ribbon going through your hand. That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I haven't felt it, but I can imagine that. Wow, that feels great.
Yeah. One thing I wish they would have done with the original Wii was have that advanced type of motion control, because it looks like ARMS does it pretty much perfectly as far as emulating your arm movement, just 1-to-1 basically. Exactly.
I think people have said the motion control on that is way better than the Motion Plus of the Wii, which is like wow okay, that's wow. Yeah, that was pretty good. So that's pretty amazing. So that's cool. It's pretty incredible that they put that technology in such a tiny controller.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it looks so innocent and just, it's like, wow, no, there's a lot of stuff going on under the hood there, and which is really clever. So, like I said, I can't think much of an application gameplay-wise, but that's just the games that I make wouldn't necessarily take advantage of that. But it's going to be neat for like maybe just different experiences that it can generate that other platforms can't, which is great.
Yeah, it's interesting because it has the ability to do everything really, and control-wise. You got the Pro controller, still has the D-pad there. You got the Joy-Cons and attached to the tablet, which can still act like a regular controller, basically, just separated, and then you can detach them and do motion control. So they have all kinds of stuff, and then you can use the Switch itself as local multiplayer. So,
and the Switch has a touchscreen as well, apparently. So there's not much been said about that. I think because they don't want it to seem like it's just a tablet, like an iPad.
Right.
I think they're trying to distance themselves away from that comparison, rightly so. But I think it essentially is. I think it is a multi-touch, basically like an iPad. That's cool. That's nice. So yeah, there's so many ways to interact with this device.
Yeah, and apparently they've added the
nice.
IR sensors to the Joy-Cons, so you could actually emulate
Yeah.
touch screen on your TV.
Right, you can actually kind of see silhouettes of your hands or whatever. Wow, yeah, really neat.
Yeah,
Very, pretty amazing. I mean, from a technology perspective, wow, what an achievement that they fit that into $300. I mean, it's certainly worth it, without a doubt. But that's not necessarily what's important. Can people afford to pay $300 for a brand new machine? That's what's important.
Yeah, and the most important thing, of course, is the games, right? Like you said. I mean, first party is going to be there, and
what a great year it's going to be.
Yeah,
This December, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, this has been a good year.
Exactly.
Games.
And it's a perfect system for developers like you, like indie developers. That you could have all these options. You could use that, as a portable system at home, play it on the TV. There's so many options for an indie developer, and Nintendo seems to have all the indie developers on board, really.
They've definitely been. It's been. I'm trying to think how it was in the 3DS. I mean, I think when the 3DS came out, there was that period before the 3DS was actually launched. It was hard to get a hold of dev kits because they just had to make them. Like we were very fortunate. We were one of the early developers to get one. I'm trying to see if I have a copy of the game somewhere, and we did. Let me get it. Hold on one sec. Sorry. All right, let me get this. Hopefully something doesn't all come falling down. All right, you can edit that stretch out if you want. All right, so our first 3DS game was actually this, Face Racers Photo Finish. Very little known game, developed by Renegade Kid, but and published by Majesco. It's a neat game. It's fun.
Cool.
But we started making it before Mario Kart 7 was announced, and as soon as it was announced, we're like, oh, okay. But anyway, my point was we were very fortunate where we got some of the early 3DS dev kits to make that game. But it was the type of thing where they lent them to us to use, which we're very honored and grateful to have, and we had to send them back when we were done because they were kind of not prototype, but they were just early manufacturers of the dev kit. And dude, they were circuit boards. I was scared to look at the thing. It was so delicate. Wow. It was exposed guts circuit board. Screen was just slapped in the middle of a large circuit board. It was rough looking. And yeah, it was. And I actually at night I put a cardboard box on top of it just so the dust wouldn't settle on it. Because it was completely exposed. I'm like,
yeah, that's scary. Yeah, spill some coffee on it, it's over.
Oh my gosh, it'd be game over. So anyway, so that was cool. So typically, it is difficult to get a hold of dev kits before the launch. Just practically, it's hard to just make them physically. Because that's just one aspect of your business. You're trying to actually sell the units to the public as well. Anyway, so there's that ramp up time of developers being able to get access to it. But I think, and I don't have any inside information on this, it's just speculation. But I think with GDC coming up, basically at the launch of the Switch, I think that's when, I hope anyway, the floodgates open and they're like, great, now people can order Switch kits. And that's just fun to say. And now,
Switch kits.
And now basically anyone who's a Nintendo authorized developer can now start making. That may not be the case. They may actually have a longer period until they open that up because the Switch is potentially very easy to develop for. I think they, again, just my speculation, but I think they want to avoid just a glut of crap for the first year. Because then it just devalues the whole market, So they want to kind of make sure that that doesn't happen. So so we'll see. But I think there's a lot of interest from indies. I think a lot of people want to jump on there and make stuff, which is cool. And like you said, there's a lot of potential for different control kind of ways of taking advantage of games and making new stuff. So
besides you, of course, who is your favorite indie developer in your family of developers there? Personally,
That's a hard question. They're all my favorites.
Well, I mean, one that comes to your mind, basically. You love them
Yeah,
all, right? Of course, but
I really do. I mean, and I think it's fair to call them indie, but I mean, Way Forward, I have huge respect for because they are.
Shantae, yeah, great game.
Well, yeah, Shantae. I
The
mean, I
newest one.
have. I mean, even though this is a Nintendo kind of deal, but I have.
Oh,
I'll hide the logo up top. Hang on, let me get it to there. Yes, I have Half Genie Hero
right.
on a different system. Beep.
Yeah.
But
I got it
yes,
on the
well,
Wii U, personally.
I actually got it on the Wii U as well, digitally through the backer
Okay.
system, through the Kickstarter. But then I wanted it on a mobile, and Vita was the only thing that was available, so I got it on that too. Anyway,
Yeah, they're excellent. Way
but
forward.
they're hard workers. They're kind of a working man's kind of company as far as they do license stuff, they do educational stuff. They work to pay the bills, and then they'll also do these fun independent ventures such as Shantae, Mighty Switch Force, etc. So I really, and their artistry is obviously unmistakably great. I mean, I love Half Genie Hero. I think the artwork in it is really fantastic.
It
But their
really
other
is.
stuff is fantastic as well.
They outdid themselves in that game,
They really
actually.
did.
They did a great job.
I thoroughly enjoyed that game. It was one of those rare occasions which has only happened with a few games, such as Shovel Knight, which is another Yacht Club games, obviously another great
Outstanding.
favorite of mine. SteamWorld Dig, Image and Form. The common thing that those three games have, Shantae, Half Genie Hero, Shovel Knight, and SteamWorld Dig, is there were games when they came out, I bought them, I played them, and I had no power over. I had to continue playing until I was finished.
There you go.
I had no control over that. I had to. The game pulled me in, and I had to continue playing it until I was done with it. And that doesn't happen with every game. Like sometimes I'll get a game, I'm like, yeah, it's good, but it's not pulling me back. Like I have to finish it. But those games did.
That's
yeah,
how you know it's good. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Like it pulls you back. So yeah, all three of those guys, and many others that I would include equally as great.
So your most anticipated Switch game is?
Probably, weirdly enough, it could be Mario.
Mario Odyssey. Okay.
Yeah, Odyssey. Sorry, yeah. Because now that I've looked deeper into the footage, it could be a pretty great 3D Mario platform game. Which could be really exciting. Carving out the New York scene and just pretending that didn't happen. The rest of it looks really, really good. Zelda obviously looks incredible, and I purposely stayed away from watching footage too much beyond when it was originally launched way back when. That's going to be good. The tricky thing is I don't really have the time these days to sit down and go, all right, 20 hours, let's go.
Or 30, depending. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the tricky thing. I mean, I'm excited to check it out. The problem is I just don't know if I'm actually going to have, if I have a lifestyle that can actually appreciate that game.
I was thinking you were going to say Mario because he has that hat mechanic. And I know in your own game development you like having the main character have like a mechanic that assists them. And I thought after what you said that Mario would probably be more appealing.
Yeah.
Just from the gameplay mechanics.
And also I like what I like about those types of games, and I think I'd probably try and do that in my games. I think maybe is I like games that you can jump into, do some stuff, save it, jump out, come back later. I mean, I guess Zero Drifter may be a little different because there are definitely some points there where you either get this done or your progress is not going to get saved. So that changed it a little bit. But with Muds and Chicken Wiggle and stuff like that, and actually Treasure Knots will be this way. You can just jump in and out, and it'll save you progress and come back later. So that kind of stuff just fits my lifestyle. So that's why I think I like those types of games. That's why Mario I think is going to be a good fit for me. I can just kind of chip away at it, in bite-sized chunks, which will be good. But yeah, Zelda looks
Yeah,
ridiculous. Oh my
everyone loves
gosh.
Zelda. I got a chance
Actually, not Bomb Monkey.
I got a chance to
Not
play it last year. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so not Bomb Monkey. Bomberman is I actually have pre-ordered that, so I think that's going to be fun. Little multiplayer. It's just a fun little arcade game, you know. So that's going to be fun to get into. Actually, I've also pre-ordered Isaac, Binding of Isaac, on the Switch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because it's one of those games. I have it on the 3DS or new 3DS, and it's a fun kind of one of those games you can just jump into and just have fun with, and just it changes every time. Anyway, so it'll be fun to see what it looks like on the Switch.
March 17th when it's coming out now. Yeah,
that's right.
Yep.
Yep.
They had to move it to 2 weeks later for some reason, but hey, that's fine.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that Nicholas is doing launch retail Switch games. How cool is that?
Yeah,
good for them.
It's crazy.
Amazing. Yeah, it is. It's so good.
Well, Jools, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing this time with us. And is there anything we can do as fans or this channel or the subscribers, anything we can do to help support you and your endeavors and making more games for Nintendo?
Definitely. What you can do is each one of you can go out and buy a copy, if you haven't already, of course, buy a copy of Mutant Mudds on 3DS or Wii U, Mutant Mud Super Challenge on the 3DS or Wii U, Zeo Drifter on the 3DS or Wii U, a Bomb Monkey on the 3DS, and obviously when Chicken Wiggle comes out on the 3DS, buy that as well. That will help a lot.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have a YouTube channel as well. What is the name of your YouTube channel exactly?
It's just my name, so it's Jools Watsham.
Just okay.
Yeah.
Jools
So
Watsham.
just
Good.
search for that. Yeah. I don't think there's a link on my Twitter. Twitter's where I'm mainly at, just hanging out, talking about games and stuff. And again, it's Jools Watsham on there as well.
Yeah, you have a really nice, unique name there, so it's pretty easy, right? It's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to spell sometimes, but at least once you know how it's spelled, there's one of those, so that's cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much, Jools, for coming on.
Thanks,
I really
man.
appreciate it. We're looking forward to the Switch, and we're looking forward to seeing what game you're bringing to the Switch too. So
yeah, so keep your eyes open. I imagine it will be next week. Nintendo will be
all right.
Revealing stuff, and it will just be kind of a little logo tucked away amongst other logos. So it won't be a big ta-da spotlight, but it will be there.
But you will be tweeting out the game.
My gosh! I'll be blowing up, making it huge, and pretending it had the spotlight. Yeah.
So you heard that, guys? You heard it here first. Next week we're going to be seeing what game he's bringing to the Nintendo Switch. Love it. Awesome, man. All right. Man. Thank you so much, Jools. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and look for your chance to win a copy of Mutant Mudds Super Challenge. We have a lot of codes to give away, so leave me a comment in the comment section if you want the game, and we will do a random pick for who can get their copy. We have North America, Europe, and even possibly Australia if you need that on the 3DS and the Wii U. So Mutant Mudds Super Challenge is we have some codes to give away, guys. So again, thank you all for your support, and we'll see you very soon in the next video. Take care.